Hi, I'm Sarah. And James has a different background every time I see him.
I'm having way too much fun with the background. Sorry, Sarah.
Yay! No, welcome. Hello, everybody. I'm
Hi.
so excited to have James here today. Not only is he here to talk to us and hang out with us, but he's willing to show us his chart, and we get to talk about James. This is so exciting for me. So thank you for being
Of
here.
course. I'm so excited. I know when you told me that, you wanted me to do this, I was so down for it. I've never done something like this before. So I felt like now is the better time to do it, with you.
Yes. I'm safe. I'm positive. Yay. That's right, Astro Partey. I mean, I love it when people are like going into this with no idea, because then we can really get into it and talk about it with fun times. So I'm going to show James's chart. We're going to talk a little bit about his makeup, what he's got going on. And then we're going to talk about some other versions of charts. I will use the astrological lingo for those who are studying or interested or know what I'm talking about. But I understand that it sounds like Greek to most people. So I will also then explain what the heck I'm talking about. So I'm just going to try to be inclusive to everybody on every level. And we're going to talk about progress charts and profections. So these are more about like where you are now in your life, what your focuses are. And that's really what I get most excited about astrologically, is how can I use this right now in my life? So yay, that's what we're going to do.
Yay. I'm so excited and I'm like a little nervous.
Yes. Well, let's first look at this beautiful, beautiful baby here. This is James's chart. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger for you guys. The big three is your sun, your moon, your rising. James, you are a Cancer sun, which you already knew that part.
Oh, yes. Knew that.
But your moon is Taurus and your
Yes.
rising Aries. Now, I've talked about this before. Your rising sign can only be determined if you know the exact time that you guys were born. I recommend everyone find it. Go get your birth certificate. You can't have an estimate. 2:30 p.m. isn't close enough. We need to know the exact time. Because that puts everything into your chart. And when you read your horoscope, they're usually written by rising sign, and we usually read them by our sun sign. And so they're more accurate if you know your rising sign. So James, from now on, read the Cancer, but also read the Aries and see what feels more right for you.
Do you think a lot of times there's a little bit of a parallel between the two, or there's usually like a contrast, like it's so different?
It's going to be different, but they're parts of each might depending on how they're writing it. So
Got
if
it.
they are writing specifically to sun, Cancer things, that's going to strike a chord with you. But a lot of times they're talking about what is transiting your different houses, and that's determined by your rising sign. So if they're like, oh, partnerships are tough, that's because they're reading something going through your seventh house. And if you're looking at Cancer, that's not lining up with your seventh house. So that wouldn't be accurate.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good to know. I guess moving forward, I'll read Cancer and Aries.
Yes, read them both and just see what resonates with you. That's what I recommend. And I also, I pointed this out with Taylor because she had a night chart. You also have a night chart. And people with night charts often feel a little bit more closely connected to their moon sign instead of their sun sign. Day chart people, if you were born when the sun was literally out, you are more drawn to your sun sign. But sometimes you were born early in the morning, so the sun hadn't risen yet.
Right.
You might also be a bit more drawn to Taurus instead of
Huh.
Cancer. But let's talk through it and let's just see, because everyone is different here. So I'm going to pop it out just so we can talk, and I'll pop it back in a little bit here. But high level here. Okay. Mr. Cancer, Taurus, Aries rising.
Sounds like a
You,
hot mess.
oh, beautiful mess is what it
Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that, Sarah.
um the Cancer part of you is your sensitive part, your
Yes.
intuitive part, your nurturing side. You are family oriented, home oriented. These are important things to you. And that actually does lean into Taurus as well. They're also very home oriented, but usually they're physical home. And now this is your moon. So this is more of an emotional connection that you
Okay.
have to your physical home as well as your possessions in your home.
Okay.
Financial security and the things that you can have and buy are connected to your emotional security. And I know that like most people want financial security, like who wants to be poor? But it's connected to your emotional security. So you actually feel safer, more balanced, more grounded when you have these things in your life.
Truth. Not wrong.
You would, yeah, you'd be a bit off kilter if emotionally if you didn't have that. But the Aries rising is like, hello, I am here. I am driven to make things happen. I am outgoing. I'm going to do it for myself. You don't actually need anybody else. You are fully capable of doing all of the things that you need. You understand taking care of your needs first. Sometimes that's hard
That
for people.
that resonates with me a
Mhm.
little bit. I think I've actually, the older I've gotten, I have been more comfortable with those things. Um, and I think just even this week, that seems to be like a common theme for me. So that seems
Mm.
pretty on point.
Nice. Um, let me pop this back up just so I can talk to the astrological people here. You have your Mars in Leo is exactly trining your ascendant. So that is actually a double dose, an extra boost of fire, which is that outgoing, very driven, let me take care of myself. Let me get out here and do it. You've got a double dose of that.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I'm not surprised at all that you came out here and were like, "Here I am, world. Let me show you what it's all about, and I will hustle and get it done."
Yeah, and it's definitely been the trajectory of my life in Los Angeles, that's for sure. Obviously, it's not easy, but yeah, I think hits the nail right on the nose right there.
So then when we go looking into your career, because you actually do have quite a few planets in your 10th house. The 10th house is our career, but it's also like our status and the outward part of us, what other people see of us, our reputation is part of the 10th house as well. Um, you have quite a few planets there, and they're in Capricorn. This shows me that you are very much into your career focused, and that you are willing to put in the work. Now, your sun, though, is opposing your midheaven.
Hmm.
So here, this gives us a bit of an opposition between you, your identity, your self expression, and your career and your reputation in it.
Okay.
Um, so that tells me that you weren't actually handed everything on a silver platter. You were not, the doors did not fly open for you once you walked into Los Angeles. They weren't like, "Oh, James, welcome." You were like, "Hello," and they were like, "Not right now." And then you were like, "I'm still here." And there was just like this push and pull. I shouldn't say there was. There is a push and pull because this is your makeup through your whole life.
Yes. Yes. I feel like that's still very much even like I've been in LA for like 13 years, I feel as though it's still happening. That's something that's very constant. Like, sure, I have connections with people, but that doesn't mean I'm given every opportunity left and right. Like, I'm still having to work for it, still having to put myself out there. And yeah, it doesn't come easily.
It doesn't come easily for you. Again, you have the hard work built in there, so you're going to keep at it, but there will be delays. There have been delays, and there will continue to be delays. There is no, once you get your foot in the door, that's it. It's all magically
Right.
happening for you. You actually do have to hustle for your
Right.
life, for evs.
It's exhausting. It's why I have
Yeah,
bags under my eyes.
it is exhausting. I can only imagine. It will just take hard work, and then you'll have success, and then a little bit more hard work, and then success. There will just sort of be these delays. You also have Uranus right here on your midheaven, so that gives me a little bit of the non-traditional. Uh, you're not working a normal office job 9 to 5. It is going to be something outside of the box, which
Yeah.
I do feel reality show fits in that. But anything else that might come your way is going to be in this non-traditional realm. But it's also expect the unexpected. It is like you're moving along this path and then boom, something happens and everything changes for you.
Yeah, I think again, that falls very much in line with just what my journey in Los Angeles has been like. Like, I feel like I've thrown things at the wall many times over and over just to see what sticks. And even if it sticks, after a while, it might fall. Then I just have to keep throwing things to fill that void. And then it's just, anytime I've gone into a job interview or anytime I've pursued some sort of employment, everyone's always like, "Wow, you have such a diverse resume," and I'm like, "Yeah, like I've been pulled in so many different directions." And
Mm-hmm.
it's very like it's not very traditional 9 to 5 because I do work very freelance. It's very like project based. So every like couple of weeks, I'll start a new project, and then that'll wrap up, and then I continue on. And so yeah, this is all very fascinating.
Tracking. Um,
Yes.
Bringing up the fact that you've had like lots of interests and stuff, your Mercury is in Gemini, which means you are very good at a conversation. You're very social, chatty, but it's also you're interested in a lot of different things legitimately. You have a variety of interests, and you could sit down and have a great conversation with almost anybody about almost any topic.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like I said it in my pre-interviews for the challenge, like I can make friends with a wall. Put me in a room with anyone and I'll find something to connect with you on. So again,
100%.
this is tracking.
It's so true. It's so true. With the sort of this like hustle energy that you have for your career and really wanting to be respected in your field, like that is important to you. Anytime the door is shut, anytime someone says no to you, you got a little bit of the energy of like, I'm sorry, do you know who I am? And you turn around and you knock on that door again.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm very
Yeah.
persistent. I mean, of course,
Mhm.
like the initial rejection stings, and I think that's more of my emotional side. It takes me a minute
Mhm.
to like go through that self-deprecating, like, ugh, like I'm sad and bummed, but then I snap out of it and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not going to
Mhm.
accept that answer. I know my worth and I know what I deserve, and I'm going to keep at it. So it's definitely an emotional roller coaster. But yes, I eventually come full circle back to that self empowerment. Like, hi, I'm here again. And this is why I'm of benefit to you.
Yes. Um, and more to that, your sun in Cancer squares your ascendant. Exactly. They're both 7 degrees. And so that gives us a little bit of tension, a little bit of friction between your sensitive emotional side. So I imagine you do feel very deeply when someone says no to you or you get some sort of rejection. It is going to cut you. And that goes against that sort of driven ascendant side of you who'd be like, screw
Yes.
these people. So there is that friction, but like friction is what keeps a car on the road. Like it hurts in the moment, but it helps you move forward. If that makes sense.
Yes. Again, it's tracking. I can say that's a very common theme with what I've been experiencing since the new year about certain things, one major thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I find a way forward. That's really what it boils down to.
And you have a lot of cardinal energy. Our charts sort of lean towards like people who are initiators, people who like go out there, then people who just sustain. They're the people who just keep trucking, get it done. And then we have the people who are very fluid and flexible and can change. And you're very heavily cardinal energy, which is that take initiative energy. Doesn't mean you're actually going to ever follow through. You do have that energy just in a smaller dose. You have all of it, so
Yes.
you're fairly balanced here. You're not lacking any of it, but you're very heavily take the initiative energy.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So here's a little thing called Chiron. Chiron is something we all have, but he's a little B. He's our wound. He's the area of us that is, the wounded little puppy inside of us that we have to heal. And it sometimes takes our entire lifetime journey. And yours in your chart is conjunct your sun in your 4th house. That tells me that there was some sort of, from your childhood connected to your sense of self. Somewhere in your childhood, you didn't feel like you could be your true authentic self. Maybe you didn't feel good enough. Maybe you felt abandoned. There's some sort of lacking there in your childhood.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, I'm adopted. So I think that even though I never felt the sense of abandonment, there was always that sense of disconnect, not really knowing my identity because I didn't know. Like anytime I would go to the doctor, it would be like, what's your medical history? I had no idea. I mean, thankfully, I've, been able to reconnect with my birth mom and get a lot of those answers. But yeah, during my childhood, I didn't have a lot of that. So
Have
that's
you
very
connected with,
interesting.
may I ask about your birth father specifically?
I know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So
This is specifically, your chart is showing us ancestral, so adoption really falls in interestingly, but along the father lineage.
interesting.
The male line is where there is the wound hitting you.
Interesting.
So that could be a whole like ancestral thing, and then I would imagine you kind of got out of it because
Oh
you
yeah.
got to be raised by a different family. I think that
Oh
would.
yeah. Yeah. But that again, this is so fast, like kind of mind blowing actually. That like
Right?
that. Yeah. That hits home a little bit.
Sit with that. Sit with that.
It feels great. It feels great. This is like free therapy.
It's definitely something that we work on our entire life, and around 50, our Chiron comes back to where it was natally. It's called a Chiron return. And if we haven't processed our Chiron, it'll smack you in the face and it'll be like, wake up. These are the things you need to sort of heal in life. So you're a long way off from that, but I will be checking back with you when you're 50 to see if anything
Perfect.
has
Sounds good. You are
come
our
back
neighbor.
up.
Just come knock on the door.
Oh my God, if we're still neighbors when you're 50, I love it. Sort of an upside spin of this Chiron Sun connection that you have is that you have the ability to see pain in others or to understand when other people are suffering, and you are actually a very helpful person in their healing. Like the more you heal, the more you help other people heal.
Yeah.
So use that wisely.
Yeah, I think That makes a lot of sense, but also that can be very exhausting,
Mm,
being a little
mhm,
too sensitive and too
mhm.
much of an empath in that way, because I sometimes forget that I also need to guard my heart and not take on other people's pain, but help
Yeah,
them through theirs.
yeah.
Um, Work in progress.
Absolutely. There's a difference between being an empath, like you said, like feeling other people's pain, and then just observing that someone else is going through something and being helpful, being there for them. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, a cancer alone is going to feel other people's pain. So that's absolutely something that you're going to constantly sort of balance.
It's why I cry all the time when I watch movies, reality shows. Sometimes even a commercial might just really hit me hard. And I just have a lot of feelings.
You do. I cannot relate. I do. I have the opposite in my chart. My moon's like, where? What are they? Where feelings? But that's my journey. Yeah, I mean, gosh, I remember like the first episode of Amazing Race. You were like, "Look where we are," and we were like,
I
"Oh,
know.
cry count. Let's go."
Yes. Oh, God, that cry counter. I don't even know where I ended off with that during the Amazing Race, but yeah, I definitely didn't
Love it.
shy away from showing my emotions.
A lesson you're learning in this life is being a part of the group,
Hmm.
being um, collective minded, humanitarian minded, like think group collective thought, because you came into this life fully skilled at taking care of James, knowing, if this is what I want, okay, these are the things I'm going to do to get it and to take care of James. But the thing that you are learning and working on during this lifetime is the opposite of that, of like, okay, now how can I help the group as a whole? How can we as a collective benefit together? Interesting. We're going to talk a little bit more about that with your themes because it's actually pretty prominent this year and next
Ooh,
year. But have
okay.
you seen um like a benefit of when you work with a team over working for James solo? Have you noticed that yet?
Yeah, I think it's kind of circumstantial, right? Like it
Mm.
kind of depends on the circumstances or the environment in which I'm in. Um, but I just guess I never really thought about it. But I would say, yeah, it depends on the situation.
Okay, well, keep it in mind as you move forward in life. Um,
Okay.
especially, so let's move forward here to where you are right now in life, um, because groups and teamwork is going to come up here. So, one thing that we all have, y'all, is a progressed lunar phase. Okay, again, I know this sounds like Greek to people, but we all have these 30-year cycles in our lives, but they don't time up exactly to like 0 to 30 years in your life. It starts at different times depending on when you were born. So James, you are exactly at your new moon phase. It
Love
was
this.
exact in December. So you are starting a whole new 30-year cycle. So if you look back over your last 30 years, um, those themes, those lessons obviously are going to move forward with you, but you might be shifting more than you maybe realize. And my favorite example of these phases is, there's Jovi. Hi, Jovi. Um, is Obama, because his first like very significant phase was with law and legal. He was studying to be a lawyer and he did law. And then when he started his next new moon phase, he was elected, he got his Senate seat in Illinois. And so then the next
Wow.
whole cycle was political. So obviously his legal background is still a part of him, but it was now a political, and he hit his full moon phase as president in the Oval Office. So That's
Interesting.
right. So you can kind of see like new stuff was happening for him. And as
Yeah.
we wrap up these cycles, we sort of slow down a little bit and start to look inward on what have we learned and where do we want to go next. And so even though you've literally been on television and in the public eye over the last like 3 to 4 years, you have internally been reconsidering things. Do you
Mm.
feel that at all?
Yeah, I think LA challenges us creatives in that way. Like, what's
Mm,
next for me? What am I going to do? Which direction do I go? And I've always had that internal struggle, especially like, I mean, obviously coming off Amazing Race, I didn't realize the challenge would happen a few years later. But when you hit such a high, and especially because that was a goal of mine for so long,
mhm.
I kind of like came into a slump. It was like, well, now what? Like, I've achieved this, that high, that adrenaline, that feeling. Nothing will ever replicate that. So where do I go from here? And then
Right.
obviously when the challenge presented itself, I was like, hell yeah, I got to do this again. You know, this is like a dream striking twice. So same thing though, when I came off the challenge, it was kind of this lull period of, well, now what? Okay, I've done
Mhm.
3 shows. They're all under my belt, but where am I going to go with this? Like, what do I want to do next? What do I want to accomplish next? So, yeah, I think that kind of seems like a cycle for me.
Yes. And so now that you are in the new moon phase, now the little things that come up are these building blocks. And yeah, you worked so hard to get on the Amazing Race and it happened. Uh, but you may not choose to continue in that route, right? You may get a bunch of television opportunities and go on 1,000 shows. That may be your next phase or next chapter, but other things might start to come your way, and you might have other opportunities that are adjacent to this world, but that lead you down maybe a more fulfilling path.
That makes total sense because I've always felt like I've wanted to stay in that realm, whether it's, producing a show or creating
Mhm.
and developing, taking concepts that I've thought of just because I love this space so much and seeing it come to life on television. But it's just, getting those ducks in a row to kind of take me in that direction.
And
But yeah,
it's gonna probably be 3 to 4 years until you're a bit more aware of what these building blocks are gonna be. These next 3 years, you're gonna just kinda take what's coming your way, right? And kinda
yeah,
go. And
very
then
experimental, very
yes,
experimental.
exactly. You're literally learning, the new stuff that you're gonna get into. So yeah, roll with it. Go with the flow over these next few years.
Great. I love that. I love
That
rolling with the punches.
that's what it's about. So then that takes us to what's called perfecting. And this is one of my favorite parts of astrology. Every birthday, we move into a different area of life. And of ourselves, and we have different themes. And depending on where the planets are aligned within those themes, kind of gives us insight on what we're going to be dealing with this year. And is this year going to be full of challenges, just like a few challenges, or a whole bunch of support, right? This is my favorite stuff. So you're 33, correct?
Correct. Going on 34.
You your birthday's in June, so we're like halfway through your 33rd year.
Yes.
And year 33 is a 10th house year. 10th house, career, outward reputation. No surprise, you are thinking about that this year.
A
You are
lot.
you are focused on what the heck am I doing with my
Yes.
career, with my job, like, that is your primary focus this year. Your 10th house is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is our planet of hard work. So even when things come your way, it's still going to feel like you put in a lot of work this year. But it is also connected to your 11th house, and your 11th house is this group, this working as a team, working as a collective. These energies are very prominent for this year and actually next year. So when you turn 34 in June, some of these themes are going to continue for you.
Okay.
But this year specifically, you are it's gonna be a fairly, I hate to say average, but you're gonna have the normal set of challenges, but you do have plenty of support for yourself this year. So whatever comes your way, you're fully capable of working through it and getting to the good stuff out of it.
Okay.
But it is very connected to this North Node, is this life lesson about groups that I keep talking about, is your North Node. So this year specifically, whatever opportunities do come your way, I suggest, I bring to you to consider thinking of them from a group perspective. If it's a reality show, since we know this is stuff you do, obviously that's competition and you want to win for yourself, but I would challenge you to look at it from a team perspective. How much of it can you work as a team to get your whole group, alliance, whatever that is, to the best place? And then you will succeed from there. Does that make sense?
Why does this sound like Mine 5 all over again?
It's literally written in the stars, James. That's all I can say.
God, that is so funny. Okay.
You benefit when the group benefits. It's not like putting other people before you. It's just like,
Right.
how can I get this whole group to succeed? And if it's not a reality show, maybe it's like a panel show talking about reality TV or whatever the opportunities come up for you. Seeing the group element of it is important this year for you, however that turns out.
Yeah,
Now we're
like
halfway done. You filmed the challenge before your birthday, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So this
I was
year,
32, yeah.
has there been any group opportunities so far this year? I mean, you do work other day jobs that are kind of team oriented.
Yeah, I would say maybe like I want to do more group trips, like when I travel. Like Will and I are traveling in May, but it's a group trip. Like people get to come travel with us to Bali. But that's really all I can really think about.
Okay, we'll just file it back here.
Okay.
For the rest of this year, but also into next year as well. Because like I said, these themes follow you after your next birthday. But I do want to say, because looking ahead here to your next birthday, this moves you into an 11th house, but you still have Saturn and you still got the 10th house themes here too. So this is all still very similar career oriented, work, hustle energy for you. But there's something transformative in store for you in the next birth year.
I love that.
And I don't know if that's family oriented or career oriented specifically, but whatever it is, you're going to come out of the next birth year a bit changed, seeing things differently.
That makes sense. I mean, Will and I are talking about starting a family, and I can imagine bringing a kid into the picture, how that would
that's
change
very transformative.
and transform me and making me view life differently. So that makes a lot of sense. And just keeping in line with maybe conversations I've had with Will recently and kind of where we see ourselves going the next 3 to 5 years. But that's very, I like knowing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just like trying to look ahead to see how this year might be different than next year. And there's a lot of similarities, except for Pluto jumps out here. And so, yeah, I will be interested to see how next year goes for you, because there will be some change. There will be a bit of a deep dive for you, figuring out something, learning something, doing something that is transformative for you.
Okay. Love this. Love this.
Yeah. Um, so that's what we have here. Now, the fact that you mentioned children, I know that you guys have talked about, I mean, you talked about it on The Amazing Race. That's really the only thing
Yes.
that I've heard you talk about it.
Yes.
I would have to look at Will's chart and compare, but I'm not seeing children pop up for another like 36 for you.
That makes a lot of sense to me. That seems more realistic in terms of where we're currently at and where we want to
Mhm.
go, and knowing the steps we have to take to get there. That's realistically, in my mind, kind of where I see us at some point in
Mhm.
terms of like adopting or having children.
Right.
So, yeah, that doesn't
Okay.
surprise me
Okay, good.
personally. I would definitely
So
be curious of Will's, but
yeah, and I do have Will's information, so offline we can talk about that. I'll just compare and look, but yeah, astrologically, you've got a lot of career stuff happening right now
yes,
this
that
year
makes a lot.
and
Same
next
with,
year.
and I would say even same with Will. Like that seems a very
Mm.
common theme for Will right now. I would be so curious about his chart and how
He's a
much.
year younger than you or older?
Yes, a year younger.
A year younger. Okay, so he's behind you in houses. So, um, but I need to see his planets. But yeah, I'll look him up as well. But yeah, you've got so much career stuff this year and next year. And then the year after that, without having done a deep dive on your planets, is just going to be a bit more internal and self-reflective. And you may not be feeling your hustle energy that year. And then that might like get the wheels a going.
Sure.
So that's like 35. So that by 36 is when you've got planets sort of like kicking that baby part of your chart. You know, like, hey, think
Love
about it
that.
now.
Love that. Okay.
Yeah. So that's where you are. I know this was a lot of information. Is there anything you have questions about or want clarification or something I
No,
didn't
it's
touch on?
it's fascinating. I mean, you kind of gave me a little teaser when we went to that traders event last weekend, and it's very interesting to me hearing everything you said, but then also like what that woman said when she gave me my tarot reading. Like
Oh, yeah.
it just seems like very on theme with that type of stuff. So
Do you
I love
remember what she
that.
said? Can you share?
She said the same thing in terms of like moving into this year. I mean, I had the death card, but she said it meant rebirth and going forward in a newer direction, maybe thinking outside of the box in terms of like where I'm going next with my career. And she said it was career. It was a very career
Mhm.
focused reading. Um, so that was the big takeaway for me. She also mentioned that like I have a standard for myself, and that like I know when something isn't right for me, and that I need to
Mhm.
continue keeping that mentality and being comfortable saying no to things, and
Mm.
really think through what might benefit me versus what might not.
Yeah.
um so that was the big thing, was just rebirth for me, and that after time there will be a period of rest, like all my hard work will have come to light, come to fruition, however you want to look at it, to the point where I'm going to be able to just kind of be like, okay, like I am feeling great, like I feel like I've been successful with this. But and she's like, just be sure to like rest, take a moment for yourself to kind of really appreciate what's around you.
Mhm.
um what else did she say?
Now
I
you
think that was
need
it.
you come across as a very outgoing, social person, and you are, but you do need rest and recovery time fairly regularly. Do you find yourself like, because you go to a lot of events and you put yourself out there, do you find yourself like needing like alone time at home, or home time, I should say?
Yeah, I would say like I've learned to appreciate it more the older I've gotten. Like I
Hmm.
love being home when
Yeah.
I like if I don't have to be out and about doing something, I like to be home in my
Hmm.
space. Like being here in our apartment, like that recharges me.
Yeah.
Um,
You
but yeah,
genuinely do need it. If you didn't value that or understand it about yourself, you would get sort of fried. Um,
burnout.
yeah, it's true. Honestly, anyone with water energy needs this, but Cancer and a Taurus combination, like you just need to be home.
Yeah.
It does you well, and so I'm glad you're aware of that now, because you do need to take that time.
Yeah, and I remember too, I can't remember. Do you remember what this card meant or what this card was? I can't even show
Yeah,
it.
it was a cups, because I remember it was tied to your water
Valet, it
energy.
says it on here, valet de coup.
What does that mean though? Valet. Was it a king, or
No,
it
it was
wasn't a
like
king?
a sign of like, let's see. I just looked it up. Is it something of wands?
Oh, were you wands? I thought you got cups. Yeah, it could be
Oh, it is
wands.
Page of Cups. Sorry, Page of Cups.
Page of
That's what it
cups.
was.
Oh, right, because page is a brand new beginning. The page is the first one, and
That's why I thought it was so interesting
mhm,
when she handed me this on top of the reading, her telling me it was like a rebirth. And then you're telling me I'm going through this transitional time. And especially with
it's
it, just
new.
everything is lining up and
Mhm.
on track, which is so fascinating to me. Um, so I love that.
Well, I'm excited for you, knowing that it is this sort of new chapter in your life, but you do have all of this career focus right now. But then, in a couple years, that's going to sort of subside. You're never going to not be working on your career, though. You've got 1,000 planets in your 10th house. You've got Saturn there, Uranus on your midheaven. Like, this is always going to be in the forefront, but it is going to be fluid and adjust for you. And so, knowing that that takes years uh, is wonderful to just sort of, buckle up and go with it, instead of being like, today, gotta happen today.
Yeah. Just roll
You
with the
know,
punches.
you gotta.
That's that.
Um, I did want to say, with your Taurus moon in the second house, look, we all work for different reasons, right? We all got to make the bucks,
Yes,
but
yes.
you work for the finer things in life. The things that you find to be luxurious, whether that be your home or travel or food or wine or whatever that is on your list, that's where your money's going, and you are more than willing to spend the money on it.
Yes, that's true. You're not wrong.
I love
And
it.
that's something I wrote in my goals for this year, like be more mind. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty frugal, but yes, when it comes to those finer things that I can make an exception for from time to time, but I also am like I need to be more frugal in that aspect
Mm,
as well. Just because we
mhm.
want to buy a house, we want to like, invest in a property. So
Right.
it's just shifting and reprioritizing,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
still enjoying a nice glass of wine.
thank you. I fully agree with that. My chart says, "Where's the wine?" That's what mine says. Um,
It's shaped like a wine glass,
yeah,
actually,
it
is
is.
what it is.
Yeah, it's not round. It's a wine
I mean,
glass.
I did get Page of Cups, so they're
You're
holding a wine
ready.
glass.
Let's go. We did have a glass of scotch together the other night. Yeah, no, it's just like everyone has their priorities on what they want to spend their money on. And
Yeah,
it's important to you to be able to, you know, treat yourself to those things that you consider, your finer things in life. So I love that.
yes.
I love that. Um, David, my co-host, he's a rising Taurus. And I told him the same thing. I was like, you work not to save money, but you work to spend that money on the things you want. And he was like, ah, yeah, I do. Yeah, absolutely.
I
So
love that.
I get it. I get it. Also, really quickly, I just want to say I did compare your chart with Will, and you guys have very solid connector points. You have karmic connector points. You guys know each other from past lives. You purposely did pair up here in this life, and your Venuses say that you just love each other. Abundance of love between the two of you.
Oh, Will, you're going to love what I'll tell you later.
Yeah. So for the record, loving the Will and James charts together.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yes. Page of the wine glasses. Well, I'm so happy that you let me do this.
Oh my gosh, thank you for asking and being down to do it. Like I'm very appreciative of that time and you looking into this. It's really great to start the year like that, I would say, just because it can help me stay accountable. Actually, a lot of what we talked about, I wrote in my planner, just like goals and things that I want to be mindful of. And a lot of it falls in line with what we've discussed. So to me, that's just reassurance that like, I'm self-aware to know what I need and what I need to work toward. And eventually all of that will pay off if I just can stay focused and roll with the punches and be open to more group thinking and being with groups.
Yeah. I think that's interesting for you just to like have that. I mean, obviously we did see it play out in Amazing Race, which I hadn't even thought about before.
That's so freaking weird.
Right? I was like, oh yeah, one of the biggest alliances of Amazing Race history. Oh yeah.
It was written in the stars. Now viewers can't be mad.
Right? Just tweet that back when anytime someone complains, just be like,
it's
sorry,
in my chart. It's in my chart, boo. Blame the stars.
You succeed when the group succeeds. Like, hello, oh my God, like what an example of that. That's amazing.
That's the weird part to me. Like that was the first thing my mind went to is like, that was mine 5. But
yeah, I love that your mind went there because I hadn't thought of that, but that's great to now you have a perfect example and just keep that in the back of your head, like on all the projects that you move forward on. That's
well, I can even see it like, that's something my friends have always told me. I mean, like, friends from the Amazing Race cast, friends from my caps on Capture from 2013, even with people from the Challenger, just my friendships in real, like not reality friendships, but like friendships in life. I've always been told I'm like the glue that keeps groups together. Like I'm really good at bringing people together, bringing people to like reunite, keeping people in touch. So I feel like that's kind of encompasses what we've talked about as well.
Yeah, well, I'm excited just to see what's coming up for you, this new chapter that's happening in your life. I'm excited I get to witness it and support it. I love it very much. Yeah, I love that you said this is a good thing to do at the beginning of the year. I also think this is a great thing to do at your birthday.
I was going to say birthday would be a great time as well.
Yeah, I do it personally for my birthday every year just to understand where I am headed. And I do it with clients as well. So if anybody is interested, follow my Instagram below. And I, reach out to me if you want a session or whatever. But yeah, I think like this is, to me, the most important part of astrology is like, what the heck am I doing right now though? Like,
right. So question for you then.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility that things could always shift? Like, is it something that always changes, or are there things that are like, no, this is just how it is?
No, it's like astrology in general. Are you saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a guide map of our tendencies and our defaults, but it's always up to us on how we approach that or work with that. Everyone has free will, and even though we all have these like individual makeup, some people could be like so not self-aware and they just never learn the lessons,
Yeah,
or
that's true.
refuse to like listen, and they just go this one way. So everyone sort of deals with it differently. So no, it's not like this is literally written in the stars and is, always going to happen. It really is up to the individual on how they work with it.
I
Like
love that.
tools in your toolkit, your makeup brushes. I don't know. Just coming up with cliches now. Okay. And the planets are always moving and always affecting us. And I know everybody's different, but like if you pay attention to the moon, it affects you. So every few days it changes. The sun changes every
Facts.
month, and that affects you. And some of the slower planets change every few years, but like, for example, Saturn is about to move into Pisces in March. That's a huge shift for everyone, but individually, it's going to affect everyone differently depending on where it is in their chart. But it sits in a sign for like 2.5, 3 years. So you get into this rhythm for a few years, and then it changes on you, and all of a sudden things feel different and you don't know why. So that's another thing I love about astrology, is just trying to understand, why do I all of a sudden want to stab people, and last year I
Right.
was so nice and now I want to stab people, it's like, why,
Yeah,
or why am I banging
so
my head
true.
against the wall? Oh, maybe I shouldn't, let
Yeah.
me go this route. Okay, enough about that. Anything else that I can answer before we part?
No, this has been
Okay.
so eye-opening, and again, I just appreciate you taking the time to do this. And it makes me excited and hopeful for the year and what's to come.
Yay! Thank you. Honestly, thank you
Of
so much for
course.
letting me do this. I love it so much. And text me if you have any private questions. I
Oh
need
yes, will
to
you
add
text me
other.
the chart so I can
Oh
like
yeah.
have a visual of that? And
Yes, I'll send you
oh,
yours and Will's for
ooh,
both of
okay,
you
sounds
guys.
good.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for hanging out. And if anyone is joining later and has questions, please leave them in the comment. I'm happy to answer. But if you follow my Create Your Best Life Instagram, that's where I talk astrology and woo-woo, not on my personal Instagram. So just try to keep those differently. But everyone, thank you so much. We'll
Bye,
see you next
y'all.
time.